Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph. Come on in, pour yourself a drink, and join us out on the deck as we inspire, encourage, and empower one another to live authentic, audacious, above-only lives. It's all right here at the Beach House. Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph.
Hey, what you doing, girl?
What's up?
We have a guest today, Steph.
I'm excited.
Came on by the beach house.
I'm excited
to come hang out with us.
Dr. Len Cooper.
Yes.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
This is really cool. This is really cool because, we just did an episode on caregivers.
Yes.
And then Monique said, I know a guy. I know a guy. So this is perfect. This is perfect. I can't wait to hear what you guys say.
I was thinking about how long I've known you guys. Well, when I say you guys, is because there's another side to him, and that's Tasha. So, but
can you believe it'll be 30 years next September?
See, you messed up because I was about to say 20.
Almost 30. 29 years. Crazy.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Len and Tasha were the first agents in, remember I told you had a financial business, and they were the first agents that we promoted to MD. So he's my baby.
I missed my mom's wedding that day. Do you remember that?
I see why you gotta.
What?
Why you gotta do?
It wasn't your fault though, so I don't hold any animosity at all.
Okay, I didn't see. I would have been like, go to the wedding.
It was that long talking dude from Pacific Life that I blame.
Yeah, that was.
But did your mom forgive you though?
She did, thankfully, and she's still married, so all is well. So it's all good.
She benefiting.
No doubt about it.
But I can't believe the time has flown so fast. And that's what brings us to this subject too, because our parents are getting older. And this is scary for me. This is a scary topic for me because I don't know where to start. Steph and I have been talking about this. We're just where do we start? Where do people start? Where do you do it your business is the beacon on the hill with dignity, and just with the respect, because
both of us have backgrounds in caregiving. Monique took care of her dad. I had to take care of my husband and my son. So
yeah.
And
now I still have a parent that's still with me, and I just want her to have a great life. And I just know a lot of people are yeah, we're moving our mom in, or our dad. All week has been like that, where they're moving parents in, or serving their parents, and they're just I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make them not feel like they're the child now, or any. It's I want you to stay the adult, but how do I do it with respect? So I'm just going to give you the floor, but I do want to say that I am so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me, especially coming from you. That's for sure.
Thank you. And you started a business called The Beacon on the Hill, which I love that name because I see the little lighthouse on the beach. Oh, how does that work? And that's what that is. It's just this beacon of light, the direction I should go. Where do I go? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm just going to open the floor up for you.
Tell us how it all came about.
Tell us about it. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to say to both of you, thank you so much for thinking about having me on, because it's really an honor to talk about this concept, because at the end of the day, all of us are going to be in a place where we have to question our mortality. We have to question the way in which we treat the people we love who's coming to that time. And unfortunately, every single one of us that lives is going to have a day where we meet our maker. And so I commend both of you for broaching this conversation, because there's a lot of people who don't know what they don't know. And because of that, they don't know the questions to ask. And so my hope is through this conversation that we will uncover some ideas that they may not have thought about before in terms of early planning. And then also some people that are in that place right now, what are some of the things they can do? Who can they talk to? Who can they reach out to? So I just wanted to say all of that to say thank you. Now, to answer your question, I started Beacon on the Hill because I really saw a gap in how families are supported when they're trying to care for their loved ones, right? And, many families struggle quietly, and, they're feeling overwhelmed, and they're feeling guilty, and they're kind of really unsure of where to turn. And so I wanted to create a company that provides personal caregivers that really walks alongside of families. And so I really wanted them not just to be there to babysit, but to offer peace of mind and compassion. And we wanted as a company to provide excellent care. And so you talked a little bit earlier about the name, and really Beacon on the Hill symbolizes this light of hope and guidance during some of the challenging times that people have. And that's really what was behind everything that got started.
Wow.
That's beautiful. I love it.
That's incredible. Thank you. I'm serious. Oh my gosh. I want to cry. Okay, I can't. Be strong. Okay, gotta be strong. Woo. Okay.
Hold it back.
Oh. Hold it back.
Hold it back.
Hold it back. Oh my God. Okay. My first question is, when do you know it's time to start offering that kind of guidance?
I think, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go.
Okay. No, the first step is really having an honest conversation. And what do I mean by that? It's talking to your loved one, in your case, your mom, about her needs, her fears, what are her goals. And then once you figure that out, then you want to reach out to a professional based on what those needs and goals are. Because, professional home care isn't necessarily for everyone. And we'll talk a little bit more about what are the different types of care, and I'll get into that. But the first one is really just about having that conversation, because at Beacon on the Hill, one of the things that we do is we really guide families through what type of support is needed. And so in some cases, it might be companionship. That's where they don't want to be lonely. They want to have somebody to talk to. And sometimes they just need help with daily tasks. And simple as that, like, just cleaning up the kitchen or light housekeeping. But some might even need more hands-on personal care. And so that might be simple as combing their hair or helping them get dressed, and more complex is actually helping them take a bath and take a shower. And so that's really having that honest conversation, and then us coming in to find out what those specific needs are to make sure that from the family's perspective, their needs are met.
And I would imagine that you want to have those conversations long before you need them.
Absolutely.
Just sit down and say, hey, we're all going to get there. So what would you want in the ideal world? What would you want to happen in this space? When everybody's thinking right and everybody's, in control of everything.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, Stephanie, those conversations are hard to have because logically we know that's the right thing to do, right? But emotionally, sometimes family members are at odds with regard to, should we take care of mom myself, but I have a career, or should we put mom in a home and I don't want her to be around strangers, or what, it might be the best thing for her. And so having those honest conversations, that's why I started off with saying honest conversations, because sometimes the honest conversations are exactly the conversations you don't want to have, because they're the most difficult ones.
Right. Because nobody wants to offend anyone, upset anyone. And you need to ask the hard questions, though.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, Okay.
I remember, with my mom, she made all the arrangements and everything that she wanted as far as, final wishes and everything like that. But I told her, I said, look, I am in another state. And on top of that, I have a visual impairment. It's not going to be conducive for me to try and go into your home after something has happened and try to figure out where everything is and what you have and what you've set up. So we need to have that all done now. So it's in a notebook in my hand. I know what you want. I know who to call. I know what to do. So there's no guessing about it.
Oh, I
I
like
love
that.
I love that. That's so important. And unfortunately, you are in the minority of people who think
Yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what typically happens is a situation happens, maybe this a life-altering event like a heart attack or stroke, or
Mm.
maybe an older parent fell and they hurt themselves. And that's when the conversation started as a result of something happening. And so for you to take that proactive step, hats off to you, because that's quite rare in my experience.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
by the time something happens, emotions are already running high.
That's
right.
right. That's
You're
right.
you're already in an urgency.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 And then
And
when you're in an urgent situation, unfortunately,
You make
you
the right
have fewer
decisions.
options to make. And then people have a tendency to make rash, hasty
Mhm.
decisions. And sometimes it's based on them taking care of an immediate need as opposed to what's necessary for the long-term benefit of that loved one.
Yeah,
yeah.
totally agreed.
Yeah. See, for me, with my dad, I tried to have those conversations, but he wouldn't have the conversations. So I
Mhm.
had to get real creative and pray a lot. And I found one, oh, Sam, he was one of my other agents. And I asked him because he worked at a mortuary at one time in his career or whatever, and so he knew how to go about the right way to get the questions, and plus he wasn't a family member, so
That's
I
it.
was at the point where I was like, dude, I gotta
Mhm.
have. Can you come over? I have. It's like a booklet because they gave you a booklet where you can have everything laid out, and all you have to do is fill it out, like a fill in
Mhm.
kind of thing. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, he won't fill it out on his own. He won't do it with me. Can you come over and just literally have a serious conversation with him because there's information that I need. And
Hmm.
in his mind, that's one thing about he had prostate cancer. And in his mind, he's fine, right? But you're at the point where you're going, but and to him he's like, why are we talking about this? I don't understand. I'm not there's no connection. So
Yeah.
I needed Sam to just go in there with, someday this will happen, they need the information. Monique's got, there's 5 kids, a business to run, you know can we have this in one place, right? And so he went through it and he got as much information as possible. But the one thing that he got that was so important was that my dad was military, but my dad never picked up the original papers. So I had nothing. And so we had to like search. I'm glad we could search for the papers to get the original papers because all that stuff's free,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
boy, you talk about pulling teeth, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't want to go through that with my mom. I want it to just be like nice and laid out, smooth, how she wants everything to be. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have that conversation.
And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to push it. You have to push that conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
People are
really
going to
what
want
you're
to put it
talking
off.
about is the difference between like final needs assessments and taking care of their final wishes. And then with home care, it's what is it that they need while they're in the process of decline, because the reality is they're no longer able to help themselves. And so you said something earlier, Monique, that was really important, which is eliciting the help of someone else, because for you, you're just Monica, you're their daughter, you're the baby girl, you're the person they changed poopy diapers in. So
Yeah.
What do you know?
exactly, how are you going to tell me? And then oftentimes as people get older, they hold on fiercely to their independence. And so you don't want to be the person that they feel is now an enemy because you're now here to take away that independence. Whereas with the professional, they can talk to that professional. There's not the same level of emotional attachment to the words that are coming out of their mouth. And then they also see them in their professional role. So they're more open to listening to what they have to say. So sometimes if you find yourself or people in your audience that find themselves in a position where they're so frustrated having those important conversations with their parents in particular, it's really, really important to get someone else that can come in and have that conversation on your behalf.
That's good.
Now, does your company do that?
Yes, we definitely do. So what we do is we go and okay, so we'll get a sense of if they need our services. So that's the first step is we want to make sure that there is an alignment with what they need and what we do. In many cases, there isn't an alignment. So what we will do is to find out what is it that is the best support for them. Maybe it might be a nursing home, or maybe it might be assisted living, maybe it's respite care, whatever the case may be. We will figure that out early in the process and then align them to those agencies or services. In cases where they need non-medical, then what we do is we go in and we provide an assessment and we ask everything in terms of what their needs are, what their wants are, what their interests are. Because when we send somebody ultimately to someone's home, we don't just want our personal caregivers just sitting there and babysitting. No, no, no. We want them leading the client and activities that are of interest to them, if it's of interest to them. So we go in and we do a full-blown assessment to figure out what those needs are. Because here's the reality. Sometimes, like people like my mom, she don't want you in her face all the time, talking to her, trying to lead her through all of these different activities. Sometimes she just wants to be left alone. But then there's other people who are very outgoing and they want to play piano and they want to do Tai Chi and they want to do their crossword puzzles. All of those things are personal. And so it just depends on each person and their individual personalities. And then sometimes, quite naturally, those wants and needs sometimes fluctuate even during the course of the day. So we go in with full understanding and full flexibility to navigate and have our personal caregivers engage in that dance, if you will, with them.
Oh, nice, nice,
I
nice.
like that. I like that.
Okay. Okay. Let's speak on the subject of another thing that we don't like to talk about is finances.
Okay.
So let's talk on the area if you don't have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about having this care or guidance? Or even like for my mom, I probably would like to have somebody that would just she can pick out a couple of days, like when she does her doctor's appointments, maybe pick her to her doctor's appointments, or something like she likes to do crafts. So sometimes she needs to go to Michael's because she doesn't drive. So it's like, is there like a day you can have like a chore day and she can just make a list of her and she can go out with the person and do the little chores and feel good about shopping and doing her little thing and then come back home, do her little whatever she does because she's fine there. But it's just for her, it's the getting out. But I don't know where to start as far as like financial. Is there like a financial thing? Is there the church that does this stuff, or is there like with a neighbor? Where do you go?
It's a really good question, and it's also a common one. And there are quite a few programs that are out there that can help. So, for example, Medi-Cal is one, especially here in California. And obviously, they have to qualify with regard to their income. And sometimes their income is too low where they can't really afford all of the things they want, but sometimes it's too high to actually be considered low income. So, but for those families that are really struggling from a financial standpoint, Medi-Cal is definitely one option. And then there's also in-home supportive services. It's called IHSS. And what that does is it allows a child or a loved one or anybody who the family deems appropriate can actually get paid to take care of their loved one. Now, it's not a high income. Typically, it's somewhere between the $1,500 to $2,000 a month range to provide that care, but it's out there. It's called in-home supportive services. There's also veterans benefits. So, for example, we have a relationship with a company called Vet Assist. And so for a veteran who served in the war and even their surviving spouse, they can actually have benefits provided for them where they have someone come in to their home and provide a certain number of hours of services per month. So typically it's between 15 to 20 hours, and it's at no cost to that veteran or his or her surviving spouse. So that's another benefit. So for all of your veteran friends, definitely, if you have any of those, definitely reach out. We can connect you. There's also long-term care insurance. Now, obviously, with long-term care insurance, I don't know if you know this, but there are some types of insurance out there where you can actually have long-term care insurance as a rider. And what that means is you can have a permanent life insurance policy and then attach long-term care to go along with that. And some companies, if you find the right agent or if you find the right product, the right company, there's no extra cost on top of that. And so long-term care as a standalone is quite expensive. And the other thing is if you don't use it, you lose it. So if they qualify, let's say, for example, I'll give you a for instance. So let's say you have a healthy parent right now, and they're in their early 60s, but they're healthy and all of those things. Now, you can actually get life insurance for them and have long-term care attached to it. And then when that time comes, then they can take advantage of that, and it's reduces your out-of-pocket expenses. And then a couple of other things you touched on is churches. Sometimes they have community centers, and they also offer what's called respite care. So what respite care is as a caregiver, and we'll talk about this probably a little later, as a caregiver, sometimes you get burned out and you get tired and you have some difficult challenges. And so what respite care does is they will have people come in for a few hours or a night or a day to offer help for those families that qualify for that. So those are just a few, but it really, one thing about quality care is sometimes it can be quite costly. So being able to have those other additional resources is super, super important.
Yeah. I know with our family, we took advantage of the one where you could have a family member, get paid to do things for you because my aunt had muscular dystrophy. And so my mom would bathe her and everything and, do all those kind of chores and stuff. And then they just let her get paid for it to do it.
That's exactly what I was talking about with IHSS, in-home supportive services.
So that was a good one. That was a good resource.
I remember that. Interesting. Well, my brain is just like, wow.
Like, I'm swimming.
Okay, let's just keep talking. Just keep talking.
Okay. Hey, no problem. Hey, I can go on and talk about this for hours. I just want to make sure I don't jump in where you want to have something to ask.
No, you're perfect. Well, if I have a question, we'll just.
Okay.
So much so. I feel like I'm in a class. They really do.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn.
You
really
need
is.
Classes for this.
That's for sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is deep.
Oh, well, thank you. So, I'll just keep talking and you could jump in whenever.
Yes, please.
Because sometimes people ask me, what advice do you give someone? Because sometimes maybe they're guilty, because earlier you talked about just the cost and people who don't necessarily have the financial ability to afford professional home care. And one of the things that I always say is that, you just gotta, remind them that, love isn't measured in dollars. You know what I mean? And so, doing your best, it really doesn't mean that you're having to do it all alone. So reaching out for help, it doesn't mean that you're less caring or anything like that. It just means that you care enough to make sure that your loved one gets the best support possible. And so at the end of the day, it's important not to suffer in silence, but to reach out and have conversations with other people who have been where you are. So maybe it's a church member or a friend or a colleague that you remember who had an aging loved one, and you can pick their brain. And if you don't have anybody in your circle, maybe it's reaching out to professional organizations that are willing to take the time and answer questions. Because, again, if we wait until calamity falls, now we have fewer options to
Right.
operate under, because we're not operating with long-term planning. We're not operating with a sober mind. We're not operating with logic. We're operating with urgency and emotion. And whenever we do that, that's where problems start to happen.
And guilt is a huge one. You might be in a position to where you are working full time and maybe you're the sole breadwinner for your home, but now your parent needs help. You can't quit your job. What do you do?
Right. That's
So you're
exactly
dealing with
right.
all this guilt, and it's just
That's
Yeah.
it.
way too
Yeah,
much.
that's a real thing. And so, oftentimes, and unfortunately, one of the things that I've seen in my experience is that the the family automatically just assumes that the sister in the family is going to be the one to take care of it. So let's say, for example, there's two brothers and a sister.
She got
Overwhelmingly, that falls on the sister, right? And
right.
so, so I'm telling you, I've seen it so many times. And so sometimes, the sister in that family unit might be a professional and have her own kids and have her own family. And so it's really important, as we talked about earlier, is to have those courageous conversations. And so for those of you out there that are watching this, maybe you're in a situation where mom and dad are healthy right now, but you see the writing on the wall that if their health starts to decline, and you're the most likely person that they're saying, but they're not saying it out loud, you need to start having that conversation now so it doesn't get left to you. Because I've seen also family dynamics deteriorate because because one thing that happens is so much conflict happens because of unmet expectations. And
Yeah.
so when the family is all expecting for one of the siblings to take the lion's share, and the sibling gets to a point where maybe they even decide to take the lion's share in the beginning, but being a caregiver is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And over time, the people that are not in that situation, they don't necessarily understand that dynamic. They just say, oh, yeah, she's got it. She's good. And, even when they ask, hey, how are you? And they say, oh, I'm doing fine. Everything's good. Mom had a good day today. That doesn't mean that they're not
Doesn't
suffering
mean
a
anything.
significant way. And so if they don't have that conversation before it all happens, then that's where the family
Are we
unit starts to.
all going to chip in?
That's
Right.
exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Yep.
Because right now my mom stays, well, my mom and my brother are roommates, right? But now I'm seeing that the hat is about to flip. And like my brother is working. And now I'm in, Northern California and everything. But it's like
What are we going
you
to do?
can't make a roommate flip to a caregiver. It's just not,
That's right. That's
you know what
right.
I'm saying? And so I
Mm-hmm.
see the pressure on him also because and the guilt too, but it's like,
Yep.
but you got to eat, you
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
And so since we're talking about conversation and that's like the most important place to be, where we need to be, like the headspace we need to be in.
Yep.
Do you guys have like a booklet that lays out questions, or am I like jumping your business too far ahead? Or it's like, hey, that's a good idea. Or do you know of some questions that we can start with to give to the caregiver? Like, is there something like hand to here, mommy, fill this out?
Yeah, what I'll
You know.
do is after we're done recording, I'll send you some things. So let me write that down because I have some training materials that are out there that I put on my YouTube channel, and I can send you the link because what it talks about is what are the questions you ask and how do
And
you.
we'll put that link also. We'll put that in the description as well for everybody
Okay,
else,
yeah. Okay,
if that's okay.
of course, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
any way we can
Are
help.
we starting you a whole new
I'm just giving away
podcast?
stuff here.
No. That's all free stuff that we give away because
Okay.
it's important to have as much equipment and as many tools in your toolbox
Yeah, you have to.
because that's what relieves the stress and the anxiety. So,
Yes.
any way that we can help with that, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, because the main thing on my mind is that I just want her to have an awesome life. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And
Hmm.
and I'm just like, man, I mean, there's just so many thoughts going through my head, even to the point I'm like, should I move her up here? How do I break that question? And how do I do that? And and okay, would that be taking her away from like her normal life? Or
Hmm.
whatever. Or if you come up here, it's a whole. I just have this whole plan in my head. And the thing is, it's a new plan because Steph and I have talked about that. Like our lives have changed for both of us, and so before this was like a family plan, and now it's a Monique plan and my brother plan. I'm single, he's single, so it's okay. How do we approach this
Hmm.
now without a husband or a wife or the family now it's just us.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
Yeah, a couple things I would say just to get you to start thinking about, and then also people that are in your same situation is the first thing is that life happens, and unfortunately, the way life unfolds doesn't always align with how we anticipated that it would work. And so what we have is what we have.
That was another
So,
podcast, Len. Letting
right?
go of the life that you thought you would have.
That's
That's
it.
right.
We just
That's
did that
right.
what 3 weeks ago, I think.
Oh,
Yep.
how
And
funny. Yeah.
things
And how
don't
do you
go the way
pivot and
you
how do
thought
you
they would go.
adjust? You know,
Yeah.
Yeah. I
for
mean,
sure.
I was sitting here and, going on 28 years of marriage with my husband, and next thing you know, he's got stage 4 cancer. We were not
Wow.
expecting that.
Yes.
At all.
Yes.
Like
You don't ever
bam.
plan for that,
Yeah.
and it's so difficult because when you don't plan and how could you plan? That's never
Right.
even
It's
on
like,
your
hey,
radar to
everybody's
even
healthy.
think.
We're all good
That's
until
right.
you're not.
Exactly. And where you are, Monique, is, you got to look at, okay, who are the people who love your mom? And all of those people, whether it's your children, your brother, your other family members, whoever those people are, you need to be the one because I can tell just looking at your expression and your face and listening to your voice how much of a concern it is for you, and it's probably something that keeps you up at night. And since that's the case for you, you be the one that leads the charge to getting the family members to have a conversation about mom. And you've also have to think about what are some sacrifices that you may need to make if nobody else does what you hope and wish and plan for them to do. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, if you are the one that's saying mom's got to be taken care of no matter what, it might be having to move from Northern California to Southern California. It might be having to move her from being your brother's roommate to being your roommate. It might be you and mom getting, a different place altogether that suits
Together.
her needs. Because here's the other thing. when
You're
remember
hitting it on the head. Oh my God.
Man, so think about what it was like when you had kids and they were in the crib, but then they started to walk, and now they're walking around the house, and now
Mm,
they start finding all of these things, and you have to childproof the house. Well, the reality is that as mom gets older, you've got to make sure that the home is safe for her, that there's no tripping hazards, and there's no things that, if she gets up in the middle of the night, how is she going to make it to the bathroom because she's in an unfamiliar environment, or maybe she doesn't pick up her feet like she used to do.
feet.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
all of these things are so important to think about, and oftentimes, because again, we don't know, we start to learn as bad things happen. So we learn about the night light on the way to the bathroom after mom fell in the middle of the night. We learn about taking all of the sharp utensils and putting them out of mom's reach after she cuts herself. We learn about getting a stove cover over the oven because she's burned herself or she's burned the food. And so we had to learn how to adapt and get an oven that turns off after a certain amount of time. And so, really beginning to think about all of those things that you dread, think about it like this: your parents, you are parents of children, and think about what it was like and how you had to childproof the home, how you really had to reshuffle and rethink your lives because it all revolved around them. If you are the ones that are providing care, you're going to have to think about those things. Now, for people that are out there that are saying, you know what, that's too overwhelming to me, that's where you put it in our hands where we think about those things. That's our job. Our job is to think about what are the possibilities before they happen so we can show you how to plan and avoid those pitfalls. And that's really what it comes down to. So, but the first step for you, Monique, gather all the people that loved your mom and have those difficult and courageous conversations.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, like, if she were to come up here, though, I think because I have two kids up here and they are just out and about having fun, I think she would have a great time.
Okay.
Like, there's always, like, she would always have activities. She would always have, she likes to eat. So, and I'm a chef, so she can
Hey, that's a good combination. That's a match made in heaven.
combination and, just somebody's there to talk to and
Yeah.
hang out with, I think that she would like that.
Yeah. But
So
so
that is
make
on my
sure
mind.
you know that's something she would like to do.
Yeah,
And then
that's up to
also,
her.
you want to make sure that you're not overcommitting the kids to something that you may assume they want to do that they may not have signed up for. So, just make sure, again, there may be a set of assumptions that all of you are carrying. So get all of those assumptions out in front of you on the table. I'll give you a quick story just to illustrate that point. Unrelated, directly, but indirectly related. So before my wife and I got married, we had premarital counseling. And one of the ministers said, look, I'm not going to marry you unless you have premarital counseling. We were thinking, I at that point had been dating her for 4 years, so we know each other pretty well. We get along great. I will tell you, after going through premarital counseling, there are things that I would have never thought about. And had those conversations not been broached and all of those assumptions been tested, there would have been many, many pitfalls that my wife and I would have had. And so, the same thing, while we're not talking about premarital counseling in this instance, we're talking about having conversations about assumptions and putting them all out there so that there's no guesswork. There's no opinions about how things are going to possibly turn out. It's thoughts that turn into an action plan, and that's really the best way that
Oh,
I
that's
would
a good way to
recommend
put
going.
that. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Keep going.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I
Oh,
love it. Love it. I love it.
action plan. I'm taking notes.
Okay, no problem. No
You see
problem.
me look down, it's like, what is she doing? She's taking
Hey,
notes.
hey, that's good. I mean, because for you, this is not just the topic of conversation. This is real life.
This
So
is happening.
This is
I,
real
About
time right
it's
now.
about to go
I
down.
get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And when you're talking about mom or dad, it takes on an extra level of significance because it's so interesting how the tables have turned, right? Because we feel a sense of loyalty because our parents changed our poopy diapers. Our parents were there before we could walk, talk, do anything for ourselves. And so oftentimes, unfortunately, in American culture, we tend to shove our parents into other places just to get them out of our hair. And in other situations, it's necessary because they need professional care. So I'm not making any value judgment on that. But when it comes down to your parents, it is of significant importance that you do what's best for them, but you also do what's best for you. Because one thing that I would say is that there is a big challenge amongst caregivers, and here's the reason why. They don't get a break. They don't
Mm.
get a chance to be the daughter. They don't get a chance to be the son. They don't get a chance to just enjoy their parent for the relationship. When they jump into caregiving mode, they're on 24/7, and levels, studies have been done. Cortisol levels go up because stress goes up, and when stress goes up, it puts stress on the heart, and when that happens, there's this whole negative cascade of health factors that come in for the caregiver. So it's really, really, really important that those of you that are out there that are thinking about being caregivers for your parent, make sure you take care of yourselves as well. Because oftentimes what happens is that guilt starts to creep in, and you start to think, you know what? I just got to tough it out while mom is still alive, while dad is still alive, and I'm not going to go on any vacations. I'm not going to go visit my kids. I'm not going to do anything fun because my job is to be here for my parents because they were here for me. No, don't do that. That's a very quick way to end up dying yourself
Mm.
because there's studies. You go online, you'll see caregivers oftentimes lose years off of their life because of caregiving for another one. Because it can be isolating. Sometimes family members disagree with what's happening and what's best. And then the caregiver saying, well, you're not here taking care of mom or dad, so I'm going to do what I want to do. And now you've got friction with mom or dad because they still want their independence. You have friction with brothers and sisters because they think you're doing it all
You
wrong.
bet.
They have friction with your
Mm.
kids because they're like, mom, dad, where's my mom and dad? I still need you. Even as an adult, I still need you. And so when those caregivers are in those situations, it's almost like they're the center of this, like this, the hub of all these peripheral challenges, and they're getting hit in all of these different directions. And it's almost impossible to stay balanced if you don't take the time to care for yourself.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is so on point because I have seen all of those.
Yes.
All of those take place.
Mhm.
And on top of that, we're talking about parents here, but I have come into contact with so many people that are caregivers for kids that are, you know, growing into teenagers and adult kids that they're having to take care of. I mean, after my husband passed, literally 2 months later, my son almost died because he came down with Guillain-Barré syndrome and like literally within a week was paralyzed from like head to toe in the hospital for 2 months. And when he came home, he couldn't move still.
At
Wow.
So
all.
I'm at a place where it's like, okay, this is my son, my 20-year-old son, and he can't do anything for himself. I have to do
Mhm.
it all for him.
Mhm.
So it's a whole gamut of you don't know where it's going to come from. You don't know what life is going to throw at you, but you're in it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's a different type of an emotion, especially with mothers and their sons and fathers and their daughters. And I
Yes,
don't and I don't understand why. I mean, I have
true.
some thoughts about it, but mothers have this special bond with their kids. Like I see it between my wife and my sons.
Mhm.
And, I don't have any daughters, but I have a lot of friends who are daddy's girls. And like my
Yep.
wife is a
My,
daddy's girl.
my
And
daughter
the
was
type of
definitely a daddy's
relationship they
girl.
have, it's unshakable. And so when you're a parent,
Mhm.
you have these goals and dreams and thoughts and ideas and ideals about what was going to happen to your own children. The whole idea is, they go up, they go to college, they get a job, or they start a business and they're successful and they get married at some point and they're on their own. You start
Family.
thinking about grandchildren and all of these things. And then when the unthinkable happens to your own child, and it's almost like you almost what's the word? You almost uh mourn the loss
Yeah.
of the
Pretty much.
ideal of what your child was going to be. And
Could
it's
have been.
almost like a mourning of death. It's not the same. I'm not trying to conflate the two, but there is a mourning process that happens with that.
Yeah. A grieving of what was lost.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And,
Oh,
in situations like that, it's always good to find people that have gone through that. So support groups are really, really important because sometimes when you go through difficult challenges, especially as a parent, you start to feel like you're the only ones out there because I've seen it. I've been through some challenges with raising kids, and I have adult kids, and we've been through some challenging times. And there were particular instances where I'd walk out of my house and everybody's living their life and doing everything, and it felt, because my world was so caved in, that the entire world, like there should be clouds outside and people are dressed in gray and black and mourning with me, but they're just living their lives. And so sometimes it brings on this sense that you're alone. And so being in support groups and finding other people who can really empathize with your plight is super, super important.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. That helped me a lot with my dad because I was going through when he was at the last stages and he was at the house. You remember that? And I was in culinary school at that time. And so the Lord just happened to put people there, two people that were really important to me that had gone through having to be in home care and made it out. And then one that was actually doing home care with a parent or whatever. So they can like walk me through different things. And they would just know, like, I know I look normal. I know I didn't like bring my issues to school, but they would know my spirit. And they're like, okay, what's happening today?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
so I would sit down and talk about it. They're like, okay, so this is what's happening, and these are the steps that are happening, and then you need to do this to relax, to debrief, and I'm just like, man, if I wouldn't have had those guys, that would have been, ooh, that
mm-hmm.
helped a lot because I didn't feel alone.
Yeah. Isolation
Yes.
is huge.
I didn't
Yep.
feel alone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
isolation is a really big thing. And then also you touched on faith too, because I'm a believer, and faith really gives caregivers in this sense strength when they feel empty, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
sometimes in and of yourself, not having a source to go through is quite difficult. And so faith really reminds us that the work that we do is sacred, and it's an act of love and service. And so knowing that God sees your effort, even in unseen sacrifices, that can really bring comfort and peace because we know that God knows all. And so, really having faith as a foundation, I could not, as a believer, think of any other way, especially when times get very difficult. When you know that in and of yourself and in and of your own strength, you can handle it. Having that faith and having God as a as that fortress, or that foundation is super, super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because literally, in our weakness, we are made strong.
That's right.
Right.
If you don't have that, I don't know how people do this kind of thing without some sort of faith background, because it's so heavy. It's so,
Yes.
Yeah.
So
if you don't
true.
have
So
anything
true.
to lean on.
Mhm.
It's hard.
Absolutely.
So you definitely need some support.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. You know,
Oof.
reality is you can't pour from an empty cup, you know,
Exactly.
That's it.
and sometimes you just got to go pray and then get your cup full and you need to
And then
rest
come
and
back.
then you need to do something that also refreshes your spirit, even if it's just a walk. Maybe it's music, maybe it's time in nature, you know, because self-care isn't unselfish. It's not selfish, it's survival. So,
Right.
you know, all of those things are super important.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that we talked about on our last episode that we did with that, just finding micro moments to carve out for yourself, whatever that might be, music or, going to a movie or taking a walk, whatever that might be. But you
Hmm.
have to do something to bring that life back into you to fill up again.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
I have not, I have been known to go to a movie by myself. If I'm having a particularly tough day, I'll just slip out, go catch a movie, and be in a place where I can change my state and my mental mindset because
Mindset.
it's an escape for me. And so,
Hmm.
you know, whatever it is, sometimes it's a walk in the morning and, you know, I'll do 5 to 10 miles a day because I like to eat. And, and
Yep.
so I want to make sure that, you know, I can
There's no
stay.
place for it to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, but getting that sunlight, that fresh air, and that alone time is always very helpful for me. So, you know,
Mhm.
for those people that are out there, just always find ways to do what fills your cup.
Right. Oh, that's
Essential.
awesome.
Hmm.
Wow. Oh. So can you just give us like a little synopsis of your business? Because this is new for you. And how did you come about making a passion in your heart into a business? Because you're still building this, I guess. I thought maybe, but how did you get here at this part? It's like,
Yeah. You
and
know,
when Monique needed you. No, it
yeah,
was
it
like
has
so
been a very
perfect.
interesting journey. That's definitely for sure. I would say, okay, so I have two grandparents, as everybody does, but my mom's mom and my dad's mom are really a real big factor into me getting into this space because once I sold my business, I retired. I was living, you know, a great life, traveling the world and all of those things. But what I realized is that uh, my grandmother, who's my dad's mom, had dementia. And so what happened is she used to be the grandma where all the grandkids from all over would go during the summertime. So what ended up happening is her husband passed away and she needed to come live with my dad. And at this time, I was living with my father. And so what she would do is every Saturday she'd cook oatmeal and toast and every Saturday. And so one day I woke up and I didn't smell any oatmeal and I didn't see any toast. And so I went into her room and she wasn't there. So I walked by the bathroom thinking, okay, grandma must be in the bathroom. Maybe she got off to a late start today. Bathroom door's open. She's not there. So I walk upstairs after I looked in all the rooms downstairs. I said, Dad, where's grandma? He said, what do you mean, where's grandma? I said, she's not here. So we go out into the backyard. She's not there. Front yard. She's not there. So all
What?
of a sudden, we're like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So we both jump in his van and we start driving around asking the neighbors, hey, have you seen Aletha? And they said, no, we haven't seen her. And so we travel around the neighborhood all day. Nighttime comes, we don't find her. So my dad calls the police and files a missing persons report. And so the second day we start driving all around. We don't find her. And then finally on the third day, he gets a phone call and he sees that it's the police department. And they describe her and they say, yeah, that's her. And they found her 5 miles away. And she was disoriented. She was dehydrated. And so my
Oh,
dad, being in
Oh,
his early 40s, he had to put her in a home, and she fell on her head, cracked her skull, and 6 months later she died.
Oh,
Now, on the flip side,
Wow.
my mom's mom uh, actually had home care service,
Hmm.
and she is 102 and still alive, and she can
Stop.
walk. No kidding. Yep, she's
What?
102 years old. So when I looked at both of those scenarios, it just made me think, you know what? We need to make sure that we're providing a care that gives people who want their parent to age in place the opportunity to be able to eat the meals they want when they want. They can have the comfort of getting up and going to sleep in their own bed, watching their own TV, and then having somebody else come inside of their home to provide that care for them as they age in place. When I looked at and saw the differences, the stark differences between both of my grandmothers, that's what really made all the difference for me.
wow.
Wow. Now, do you do,
That's amazing.
because the people are coming into their home,
Hmm.
do they interview the different people? Because I mean, you're letting somebody into your home. So, I
Absolutely.
mean, I know
So
you
there's
took a survey of what they want, but still, it's like, I might not like this person. You're going to have this person coming over every day, or, you know.
Yeah, that's a common question we get. So there's a we go through a very rigorous interview process, even though the personal caregivers we employ are not medical professionals, because again, we're a non-medical home care agency, but they all go through a two-part interview process. And so then in combination between that, and then also we give the families an opportunity to let us know if the person isn't a good fit. And so, if they're not a good fit, then we will send somebody else to their home. But one of the things that we really do and we really pride ourselves on is making sure that we ask the right type of questions to make sure, like, we get very granular with it. So, for example, we'll ask if they prefer a male or a female. We'll ask if
Mm.
they prefer a person who is wanting to engage in conversations or give them their space. We ask them, you know, what kind of activities do you like? Do you want somebody to engage with you in activities? And if so, what are those types of activities? Because some individuals, they want to be, where they're testing out the depths of their mind by doing Sudoku and doing playing chess and
Mhm.
playing the piano. We find out all of those things ahead of time so that we match the caregiver skill set also with that family's interest. So it's not just about sending a warm body, it's about aligning the caregiver skills and interest as well, because we want to know, like, for example, if they're really good cooks and they come to someone's home that used to be a chef when they were working. Well, we want to align them because maybe they can cook together and prepare meals together and make
Oh,
some
that's nice.
specialty dishes, as opposed to just coming in, because a lot of times,
That's a
unfortunately,
mentorship. I like that.
right? Exactly. Exactly. Because if somebody comes and they're at someone's home and they hate cooking, why would we send a personal caregiver that doesn't like cooking to their house? So
Right.
in the interview
Mm.
process, we find out what their gifts and talents and skills are as well, so that we can do that matchmaking on their behalf. And so typically, more times than not, the families are happy with the people we send because we go through a very rigorous process to identify who's a good fit for them.
So when grandma says that she wants a male that looks kind of like Boris Kojo, that used to be on the Aussie Heat team and
Right, right.
loves the salsa dance, then you
Wait, like
guys
it
can
has
send that guy out.
the eyes,
I,
right?
now
Yeah.
I gotta manage expectations, right? So if we don't have him
You're
on
gonna
board,
find that
we have to
guy.
let her know, hey, will you settle for Chad around the corner? He's a good guy. He ain't Boris Kojo necessarily. So no, but
He
but
can take his shirt off and dance if you want him to, but
you might not like what you see, but he's gonna treat you well. But but in all seriousness, no, though, we as a company, we have to have insurances for that. So we're bonded. We make sure that we have all of the insurances in place so that we can take the steps to make sure that they're getting the best quality care in their home as well. So we do our
you're
best.
not only taking care of the physical needs, but you're taking care of the mental and spiritual aspects as well. I love that.
I like that.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and we specifically have a program called Wellness 360, where not all families need that or qualify for that, but for those families who have parents that want to travel, because some families want to travel out of the country, and so instead of having to worry about mom or dad, they take one of our caregivers with them on the trip, and so.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah, and then sometimes we could provide pre-trip planning. So we want to make sure that the places they go, for example, have, if necessary, wheelchair accessible routes, and maybe they have eating facilities that align with their dietary needs. And so we can get that granular in our planning. Obviously there's a cost that goes with that, but for those families that still want to travel with their parents and be their parents' kid, not their caregiver on that trip, we
Yeah.
can provide that extra layer of support where, like for example, in many situations, our caregivers don't wear uniforms. And so,
oh, that's
so people may
Nobody
just think they're
knows.
part of the family,
Hmm.
and that
yeah,
also helps preserve mom and dad's
dignity.
dignity as well.
Yeah. It's
You
Oh,
don't
almost
want
like
them walking
hiring a
around with
nanny in, isn't
smock
it?
and they're in France hanging out, and it's like, oh, who's over there taking care of their, mom and dad from the hospital? No, no, no. We want it to have the appearance that, they're part of the family, if you will. And
Yeah.
so they can be in the distance and, they don't have to be right there in their business, but, they can stand afar off and understand where they need to step in and when they need to fall back.
Kind of like,
so
hiring a nanny.
yeah,
They
Hmm.
become part of the family.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So when you hire the person, to be the caregiver, that person is their person. It's not like, okay, then next week Cynthia will come in, and then next, it's like, no, this is your person. This is your client. Your client. That's the best way to put it, right?
yeah. Okay, so that's a really, really important point that you bring up because there are certain instances in which we won't provide services because there's not a fit between what the family wants and what we provide. I'll give you an example to illustrate the point of your question. So there was a family one time, very well-to-do family, uh, and they had caregivers already. So what they wanted to do was to have us send somebody on the weekends, like once or twice a month, when their people weren't there. And so
Mhm.
I said, I really want you to understand how our company works. We're there to be the main person. And so
Yeah.
in situations where you want one person coming in and another person coming in on another day and another person coming in another day, there are lots of options out there. In fact, I'll connect you to a company that will do that. And again, no judgment on that company because everybody has different needs. That's just not our model. Our
Yeah.
model is in ideal situations, the goal is to have the personal caregiver be their personal caregiver, where they're providing consistent, ongoing care, presumably for the rest of their lives or until their needs evolve from non-medical to medical.
Yeah. You are wanting to set up a rapport with the family, not just have somebody come in and babysit.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's about the relationship. It's a because I went to a funeral of one of and the caregiver came, right? And the caregiver felt part of that family because she took care of the lady for months and months. And so when I was there, you know, the caregiver shed a couple of tears because it's, when you're around somebody that often, it gets personal.
Yeah.
And so, there's a relationship that's built. It's not transactional if done correctly.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful because I think that's the thing that most people fear when
Yes.
they're getting to that place that I'm going to be put on somebody and just
Yep,
stuck in some sterile environment with people who don't care.
that's right. That's exactly
Mm.
right.
But if you know that you're going to have somebody there that you can relate to, they can relate to you, you built a rapport together, you have a relationship together,
Hmm.
and that's precious. That is precious.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
And
building a
that,
family member, a new family member.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
the entire family actually relies on.
That's exactly right. Yep, because our personal caregivers are really there to give the entire family peace of mind, an opportunity to, just to exhale, right? Because when one of the siblings, or in some families, the siblings will rotate and then mom and dad will go to each of their homes, and that's also fine, because that may be what's best for that parent and for that family. And in other cases where that's not what's best for them, our role is to help those families be able to free up that mental space so they can take care of their own families or their own goals and dreams, and allow us to do what we do best as professionals.
Wow.
Now, how do you go about finding your people?
Ooh.
So, uh, a lot of it's through referrals. So, like for example, I have one lady that I've been friends with, and she's in the caregiving space, and so but more on the nursing home and assisted living facility. But sometimes what happens is those individuals that are working in nursing homes oftentimes have, on average, 25 to 35 people on their caseload.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yes, yes. When I do interviews of anybody who comes from a nursing home, specifically, I'll ask them, so how many people do you typically see in one shift? They said, no, I have 35. I've heard as much as 45 people. So imagine every hour, let's
Oh,
say 10 people have soiled themselves. How are
Mm-hmm.
you getting around to the other 30
You're not.
people? You're
You're
not.
not.
Their needs are not going to be met. It's not possible. So many of them get burned out from just being stressed out, from feeling inadequate, because it's no matter how hard you work on that shift, it's
You're
never
never gonna.
enough.
Yeah.
It's
right,
you,
right.
and someone's always going to be upset with you. And when people get upset, especially when they're older, many of them lose that filter. They don't care
Right.
about what they're
Filter.
saying to you. They don't care about how they're coming across to you. So getting spat on, being called names
Mm-hmm.
that your parents never gave you, that would make
Yes.
you want to cuss them out. Like, caregivers really have to, especially in those environments, they
Mm-hmm.
really have to put themselves in situations where they compartmentalize and understand that a person with dementia calling you the N
Right.
word, or calling you ugly or stupid, or whatever the case, whatever the put down may be, is not them. It's their disability that's talking. And
Exactly.
so sometimes, unfortunately, you hear a lot about abuse that happens because the caregiver themselves is driven to their wits end
They
because
lost
they haven't
it.
compartmentalized what's going
Mm.
on. So we find people that have a heart, that have that care and compassion, and they want to preserve the dignity. And some of them have just been worn out because they know they can't really do what's necessary to meet the needs of everybody. So the idea of working in one with one person is a dream.
They're like,
So
yes.
yes. So a lot
Right.
of our referrals come from people who are in that space, who want something different. And then we also have, we do advertising and things like that. And so, we'll sit down and we'll talk to 20, 30 different people on a day-to-day basis, especially when we're hiring large numbers of people. So we're very, very blessed to have a nice array of avenues to acquire talent. But one thing that's really, really important is to understand, good talent is hard to keep because, many of them are aspirational and we don't want to hold them back too. So, sometimes we do have a bit of a revolving door. So recruiting and referrals are an ongoing necessity for the lifeblood of our business.
And I can imagine too that you would, in the position that you're in, get people who truly want to be there.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I
A
can say is
win-win for everybody.
yes. And in my life, in my professional life, I would say one of the blessings that I've had is I have kind of a superpower in reading people pretty quickly because in my entire adult life, I've been around lots of people. And so I've seen people that you know, try to come across one way, but they're really another way. I've seen a lot of people who really undersell what they really bring to the table. And I see other people that, think too highly of themselves
So,
given what, where they are.
Hmm.
And so, so I really, really pride myself. I don't get it right 100% of the time. I wouldn't lie and tell you that, but I'm right most of the time, overwhelmingly. And so, because of that, that helps us to really quickly weed out the people who are just there to collect a paycheck. They don't survive here because just our culture doesn't.
yeah.
It doesn't feel conducive for their way of being, and so they just
Right.
kind of inch themselves out, and we're perfectly okay with that.
Yeah.
Right. So do you hire people that are just good with people and love to help and
Yes. Now, there are requirements, like they have to have basic CPR skills. They have to go through our training and they have to renew that training once a year. And so, depending upon, so like we have veterans care services, we have respite care services, and then we also have home care services. Now, all of them, what's common is they go into the home to provide non medical services, but the audience is different. And so, because the audience in which they serve is different, the training has to be in alignment with that particular audience. And so they have to understand that when they come in, just being a good person, that's the most important foundation. Without that, I don't care how much you know. But even though you're a good person, you also have to have specific skill sets
skill?
to be able to do our job well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so your business does the non-medical. So what happens when you're a caregiver for somebody and they switch over now to needing the medical part
Yep. So one of the
of
things that
care?
that we yes, that's a good question. So one of the things that we instruct our caregivers to do is they have to do daily reports. So that's, paperwork is a really big part of everything.
Okay.
And so when they start to recognize signs, like let's say for example, they start to get more forgetful and they may need memory care, or maybe they have decreased their capacity to walk and they may need some type of physical therapy.
Mm.
Whatever the case may be, they have to alert us of that. And then what we'll do is have a conversation with their loved ones to let them know that there's a different level of support that their parents are in the process of needing. And the moment we find out, our goal is to let them know before it actually happens so they can begin to plan for it and they can begin to look for other resources. So just like we talk about the importance of making sure that individuals plan long term for their parents' care, when those types of care needs start to change, we also want to afford them as much time as possible to effectively transition so they're not doing it in a hasty way.
That's
So
good.
now okay, so like let's say the person, like you said, needs the physical therapy part of that piece. That caregiver that you already have in the home stays, but you're just implementing another piece.
It
Like,
depends. Good question. That's a really good question. Okay. So I'll give you two scenarios. So one scenario is, let's say, for example, we have a personal caregiver in the home already established, and somehow mom trips and falls, or dad has a issue where he has a heart attack or a stroke.
mm,
He comes back, our caregivers can work in conjunction with the physical therapist or with the nurse or with whatever source of care they need, because it's temporary. Our people are typically there on an ongoing basis. So when an episode happens and they need medical care provided, we can do that in conjunction with them. Said scenario B is their health has diminished to a place where they no longer can effectively get by with non-medical care, and they need skilled nursing, or they need
mm,
ongoing therapy where it's something that we can't specifically provide. That's when we transition them to another agency or another entity to then take the baton and give them that necessary care. In many cases, we transition them to hospice, where, a hospice agency comes in and provides that, or palliative care, and so when it's the end of their life and we can't administer medication and make them feel comfortable. We can't provide specific behavioral health or medical. We can't do their vital signs or anything like that. All of those types of needs, we hand the baton off to other agencies.
Yeah.
okay.
Wow. This is
This is
this has just been so amazing.
awesome.
This has
Thank
been
you.
so amazing.
Well, good.
Wrapping, I guess.
Like Steph says,
What what would you tell the people listening? What's your ending thoughts for them to help them do what they need to do, I guess.
I know,
Yeah. No, that's such an important point. It's such an
I
important
mean,
point
I
because
can see that the discussion part, having the discussion beforehand,
yes.
that was pivotal.
yeah, no doubt. Um, One thing is that I hope that people walk away from this conversation just knowing, one, that you're not alone,
Yes.
and two, know that there are services and agencies and companies out there that are out there to help and to take the load off and the burden off when you can no longer bear it. And the other thing that I hope you walk away with is the importance of understanding that it's imperative to start thinking about these things before you actually need it, so you can start to create a runway for yourself financially, emotionally, physically, mentally, psychologically. Because when you're placed in the midst of that challenge without any runway, without any opportunity to prepare, it is a life altering set of circumstances. And I can tell you, we did a caregivers event, and there was a gentleman that was there because we did a panel of people who provided care for their parents. And he said something that was really profound. He said, I hate to admit this in public, but because we're amongst family, it's important for you to know this. He says, now, I'm a mama's boy through and through, and my mom came and lived with us. And one day I was out at work, and my wife was at home with my mom, and she gives me a call, and she says, husband, I won't say his name, you need to get home as quickly as possible. He's like, first, is mom okay? She said, yes, she's okay, but you need to get home as soon as possible. And so he gets home, and his mom is sitting there in her own diarrhea. And as he walks up towards her, he slips and falls, and it's all over him. And at that moment, he was saying, I wish you would
What do we
die.
do here?
I wish you would die, because I don't
Mm,
want you feeling and being in this place anymore. You're not in a good space. And when you die, it's going to be better for you and it's going to be better for all of us. And he said
Mm.
at that very moment, a profound
Those are
degree
real
of guilt
feelings.
just flooded my being. And even as I look back at it, it was still a real feeling. And I'm relieved that she's gone now. I miss her profoundly, and not a day goes by without me thinking about her. But if I would have had somebody to take that load off, she could have just been my mom.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And so for people who have aging parents, do whatever you can to prepare. If they're still young enough, get a life insurance policy. You can have long-term care as a part of it. And then when they pass away, you get the life insurance money. You can, prepare and plan and do their burial, and then also have an inheritance built all into it and still provide support for them. Some of you may say, you know what, my parent isn't life insurance eligible. Start setting money aside right now. Be very practical and pragmatic and say, look, if this happens, I may not have somebody come in every day, 24 hours a day, but I can have somebody come in 4 hours a day to give me a little reprieve and do those things because you deserve it. You owe it to yourself. And also your parents don't want to feel like they're a burden on you. So it's really, really important to plan early.
I mean, just having my husband being in that place, I remember that same thought of saying, Lord, barring a miracle right now that only you can give, if that doesn't happen, please take him soon. Because this is it's too much. It's too much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a tough road to travel. And so many people, until you've gone through it, there's no way you can possibly understand. There's no way.
Don't know.
Yeah. Now, sitting here, and both of us are in our 50s, sitting here, my thoughts are too, not just my mom now. I'm like, okay, what about for me too? And do you give like little classes or seminars on like 50 and above, like what we need to have and line up and where do we start? Do you have little classes?
I have a YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I go through all of those things and it's all free. So it's, I'll give you all of that so you can put it in the description. And so, Beacon on the Hill is our YouTube channel. And so also our website is bothhomehealth.org. But most of the things that you're talking about, Monique, those things are on our YouTube channel. We have classes that go over it. I'm a talking head, but I go over all of those topics.
That's awesome. I know. I remember. I remember shortly after my husband passed. That's thankfully we both had life insurance policies set in stone already. But I immediately went through my church and set up a trust and named everybody, told all the kids, okay, this is what we're doing, da 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 da. It's all here, it's all on paper. Boom.
Yep. That's so important. Living trust. And it's not a will, it's a living trust that you need because the living trust is what's legally binding. Yes. So that's a really important distinction. And there are many states where if you pass away and you have a certain amount of assets, it automatically goes to probate.
Yep.
Living trust negates all of that.
Yes.
Well, we're going to have you on again.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
This was so amazing. So much information.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got value from
that. So thankful.
Wow.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, like we said, and he said the information will be in the what do you
put it in the description.
What do you call that on the bottom down there?
We'll put it in the description. We'll have the links for you to go to his channel and get that information that you need. And this is definitely one that you're going to want to share with people. You need to share it with as many people as possible because Nobody likes to think about it, but it is real. It happens, and it can happen at any point to a parent, a spouse, a child, sister, brother, whatever. Life happens. So we need to be prepared. So we want you to be prepared. So share, share, share. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and definitely share. And we will see you all again next time at the beach house.
Bye.